That was weird. Why did it shut off the stream? Did I accidentally click it? That was weird. Okay. Are we good now? Maybe? I guess I have to start over? It's actually really bright right now. Okay. So once again, we are going to start from Edgar's point of view. I wish for a life with the person I love most. All of a sudden, my hair is blown back from my face by a powerful wind and everything goes black. There's a pounding in my head and so much brightness enveloping me that I squint, unable to see. I feel a hand on my back. Edgar? I turn, focusing on the doctor's face. Then she pulls down her mask and I see my mother. I look up to find us on the sand at Ever After Beach. In a horseshoe surrounding us are all of the characters from the book. I crane my neck and see the tangled tails of letters overhead. My mother takes a step backward, gasping. Am I dead? No, I cry, throwing my arms around her. No, you're very much alive. Over her shoulder, I grin wildly at the others. It worked, I cry, the words bursting from me like fireworks. It really worked. A chorus of cheers rise from the beach. My mother, though, is panicked. She turns in circles as if she is trapped, her eyes wide at the flat, two-dimensional oddness of the interior of the book. Her body jumping slightly every time one of the characters speaks. She has a punishing grip on my arm. Where are we? She whispers. I grasp her shoulder. It's okay, Mom. I've been here before, and so have you. You're the one who wrote this. She shakes her head. This isn't. This can't be. Ravsculio hesitantly steps towards us. He reaches for my mother's hand, falls to one knee, and bows his head. Your Majesty, it is an honor and a privilege to finally meet you. Captain Crab approaches next and kisses her hand. I swear my allegiance to you always, he vows. Humphrey runs in a circle around my mother, licking the back of her knees. You taste delicious, he says, and she gasps. You can speak? Yes, I can, Humphrey replies. I know lots of words. Potato, thermos, pencil, communism. That's great, my mother says. As Sock shyly drops a daisy at her feet, she pats his mane, a smile washing over her face. You were always my favorite. I knew it, Socks replies, prancing away. Orville is the first to fold my mother into a hug. Welcome home, my dear, he says. One by one, the other characters step forward to introduce themselves. The fairies zip around her face, the mermaids flip and splash their tails. The trolls reveal a sandcastle built in her honor. Even Pyro soars through the clouds like a skywriter spelling out her name. I hate to say I told you so, I murmur, but I told you so. My mother looks at me and shakes her head. I'm dreaming this. I must be dreaming this. Kind of, I say. You'll get used to the weird stuff, like the way you can jump extra high and run extra fast and eat anything and never gain an ounce. Or the way you move from page to page. It feels like it must be a dream, but this is our new real. She created this adventure for me years ago when I was afraid of death. This time, I'm going to do the same for her. Come on, I say, taking my mom's hand. There's a lot to see. I can tell she still thinks that she's going to wake up at any moment. I can tell that she doesn't trust what's in front of her eyes. Maybe it's just going to take time. At that thought, I can't help but grin, because here, that's exactly what we have. The castle is just the way I remember it, dazzling, grand, ornate. I watched my mother walk into the great hall, staring at the vaulted ceilings. And intricate tapestries, occasionally reaching out to touch a marble statue or a sword mounted on the wall. And we got an illustration. There is the picture. I can't tell how well you can see it. It's weird because it's like I see a reflection and I see the camera because it's so bright in here. But yeah, so there's him and his mother over on Ever After Beach talking. I take her into one of the towers to Queen Maureen's chamber and open the double doors, revealing a round room with a high carved canopy bed, a massive fireplace, and a gigantic armoire containing the finest silk and satin gowns embroidered with golden thread. So, I ask shyly, do you like it? It's lovely, my mother says. I cannot wait to tell you all about it when I wake up. I sigh. You're not dreaming, Mom. You're here. We are here for good. The clock on the mantel chimes. It is made of bone china and gold, covered in rubies and emeralds and sapphires. My mother's eyes fly to its face, and she begins to reach in the pocket of the scrubs that she is still wearing. I have to take my medication, she says. But of course, the pills aren't. They've already disappeared in the transition. My mother pats down all of the pockets. They must have fallen out on that beach, she says. We have to go back. No, we don't. You don't need those pills here. You don't need them anymore at all. Edgar, you have to accept the fact that I'm sick. It's not what you want, and it's not what I want, but it's what we have to deal with. And it's going to be a lot easier to handle if I don't keep having seizures. Frustrated, desperate to prove her that she's going to be healed here, I grab the clock from the mantel and I smash it as hard as I can against the stone wall. It shatters into hundreds of pieces. Gears and springs and gems scatter across the parquet floor. What have you done? My mother cries. She immediately falls to her knees trying to gather the pieces, but they begin to tremble in her hands. They pop out of her palm, quivering, gears finding each other and notching into place, golden joints fusing together until the clock, whole and restored, rests on the floor in front of her. I pick it up and I set it gently on the mantel. This is what I'm trying to tell you, I say. You can't be broken here. The book will fix you. My mother stands and with a shaking hand reaches towards the clock to touch it. Of course, she murmurs. I understand. You do? You never die in your dreams. I close my eyes. No matter what I do to convince my mother of the book's magic, whether that's cutting myself with a sword and letting the wound heal, or jumping off a cliff and landing safely on my feet, she's going to think that this is a dream, and it might as well be. After all, this entire story came from her imagination. Suddenly, I realize exactly where I have to take her. The copyright page is a sea of white as far as the eye can see. My shoes slip as I pull my mother behind me, teetering, trying to balance in the slant of the italics. The copyright symbol is a tiny divot that grows as we get closer, the only marker to let me know that we're getting anywhere at all as we walk. Overhead, text hangs so low that I keep smacking my forehead against the tails of the Y's, G's, and P's. The closer we get to the copyright symbol, the more the ground seems to slope. I have been to this page since Seraphima was sucked out of the book, but the vortex was sealed shut. I still don't really know what made it open the first time. I only know that I'm going to do my best to make it happen again. It's an optical illusion, but the whole page is shaped like a cone, with the copyright circle at the very bottom. Because of this, by the time you reach the bottom, my mother is struggling to keep from falling forward on top of me. Grab hold, I tell her, reaching down to grasp one edge of the letter C. She follows my lead, and immediately the circle shifts to the left. I think we have to turn it, I say, and I put all of my weight into pulling clockwise. Inch by inch, with a screech, the wheel unlocks and finally pops open like the hatch of a submarine. I look at my mother. Jump, I tell her, and I disappear through the hole. She lands lightly in a crouch beside me and slowly stands in awe of what she sees. There are shelves of bound papers and thrones draped with cobwebs, a giant man-sized bird cage. There are baskets full of broken glass hearts and corked bottles stuffed with rolled-up notes. There's a dragon's tooth the size of my head propped against the wall and a wagon wheel. In the corner, a cello is playing itself. Welcome to your imagination, I say. I don't think my mother hears me. She is walking through the obstacle course of assorted objects, lightly touching them as she passes. Her hand stills on the statue of a leopard cast in gold. It was a jealous leopard, she murmurs, who begged a witch to make him the most prized animal in all of the kingdom. Because of his selfishness, she turned him into precisely that, a golden statue. She walks up to the bird cage. Mad science experiment gone wrong. The bird became the master. Then she runs her hand through the basket of bottles. A man goes off to war. He marches upriver with the army and sends a love letter in a bottle every day to his wife, who lives at the mouth of the stream. She touches the cello that still plays. A human boy falls for a muse, but the only way that he can impress her is with a magic cello created by the gods that never ceases to play. The muse adores his music and eventually the musician himself, but he can never let go of the cello's bow in order to hold her because she will realize that he is a fake. Finally, she reaches for the portrait I saw the last time I was here. King Maurice, holding a baby. It might as well be a photo of my dad and me, dressed up in costume. My mother turns, her face filled with wonder. These were all my stories, she murmurs, the ones I never wrote down. You used to believe in the impossible, I say. Couldn't you do it again? I shove aside a feather boa and a bearskin rug to reveal a pristine ivory desk with a quill pen and an endless curl of parchment. I pull one of the empty thrones closer to the desk, holding it out so my mother can sit. Gingerly, she picks up the quill and for the first time in years begins to write again. Leaving my mother behind on the copyright page, I begin to wander through the book. It's like I'm seeing the scenery with new eyes. Suddenly, the borders of the book don't feel confining. My tights don't even chafe. Everything's possible, just because I've managed to get my mom inside of here. I don't realize how far I've walked until my feet sink into the sand of Ever After Beach. For a moment, I just stand at the shore, watching the sun paint the clouds pink and splatter the sky with orange and red. Pretty, isn't it? Turning around, I realize I'm not alone. Seraphima sits a distance away, her knees hugged to her chest. Yeah, I reply. It's my favorite time of day, Seraphima says. Sunset? No, she answers, night. Darkness settles and the stars come out, as if the sun has shattered into thousands of pieces. Seraphima's face tilts towards the sky. Before Ollie left, he showed me something, she confesses. She points to a bright twinkling star. That one is Frump. I open my mouth to tell her that Frump hasn't turned into a ball of gas, but then I think otherwise. I mean, if it makes her happy. I miss him, Seraphima whispers. I really, really miss him. In the moonlight, I can see that she's been crying. I don't really know what to do with a crying girl. I pat her back awkwardly, trying to make her feel better. The distance between Seraphima and Frump is pretty insurmountable, just like the distance between me and Jules. Alright, we got an illustration. That's his mom starting to write again for the first time. Alright. I need to go AFK. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Let's continue. Jules, I have an idea, I tell Seraphima, holding out my hand to help her up. Do you trust me? She hesitates, but only for a second. I lead her off the beach, past Timble Tower and the enchanted forest, and Orville's cottage around the outskirts of the castle, and over a rocky ledge to Pyro's cave. Stay here, I tell her. And I lean into the gaping entrance and whistle. Ugh. My water's empty. Hold on. I'm just having no luck. Okay. So let's continue. There is a puff of smoke and my eyes tear. The ground shakes as Pyro wriggles his way onto the ledge of the cavern. Let's celebrate. His red eyes glow in the night. His scaled skin ripples with every breath. When he sees me, his lips draw back, baring razor-sharp teeth. Who's a good boy, I say, patting his neck. I grab onto his mane and swing myself over the bridge of his neck, and then I lean down so I can help pull Seraphima up behind me. Are you sure that this is a good idea, she asks. He isn't trained. Worst comes to worst, you fall off and gently land on the ground. I grin at her. Aren't you the one who taught me how to jump out of a window? She smiles and wraps her arms around my waist, screaming with delight as I kick a heel into Pyro's side and he shoots into the sky. We climb at a crazy speed, wind rushing past my ears. Squinting, I search for the words at the top edge of the page. Once upon a time. I lean down over Pyro's neck, guiding him like an arrow through the O. The O catches around Pyro's middle like an inner tube, and then shatters, dusting us with black powder. Suddenly, we are among the stars. They hang in front of us, brush our shoulders, tangle in our hair as Pyro swoops and dives in figure eights. Delighted, Seraphima giggles behind me. I steer Pyro towards the constellation that Seraphima pointed out from the beach. Holding the dragon steady, we pull up beside the brightest star. Seraphima reaches out, brushing it with her hand. The star tinkles, making a chime that sounds just like the tags on Frump's collar. She lets the weight of the star rest in her palm, where it glows so brightly that it's hard to look at. Then she snatches her hand away, wincing. She examines her palm. The outline of a heart is burned into her skin. Seraphima closes her fingers around it, like it's something that she could hold on to forever. Thank you, Edgar, she says. She's crying again, but this time it's different. This time she's happy. Pyro gently rides a downdraft back to Timble Tower so that we can drop off Seraphima at her window. She climbs gingerly onto the ledge. Maybe we can go again sometime, she suggests. That would be great, I say, smiling. I wave goodbye, about to turn Pyro towards the castle, but Seraphima calls me back. She's silhouetted in the window, her silver hair as bright as the moon. Edgar, she says, it's good to have a friend in here. It isn't until the middle of the night, after Pyro's back in his cave and settled in her chambers, her hands still dotted with ink, that I let myself think of Jules. In the minutes before I left, I pulled her into the tiny mudroom in Delilah's house. It was pitch black, because no candles had been set there, but I didn't need to see Jules's face to know what she was thinking and what she was feeling. Jules, I started, but she cut me off, putting her finger against my mouth. It was everything I could do not to kiss them. Don't talk, she interrupted. I have to tell you something. Remember when I said it wasn't real, everything that happened between us in the book? I was lying to you. I had to, because I was lying to myself too. It just seems so Disney to finally find a guy who didn't go running for the hills when I said that a human head stays conscious for 15 seconds after it's cut off. Yeah, I'm pretty sure our relationship is the plot of the next Pixar short, I told her. Jules had laughed. Geez, just my luck. What's that saying? All the good guys are either taken, gay, or stuck in a children's fairy tale. I knew she told me not to, but I framed her face with my hands and kissed her. Like, really kissed her. In this world, at a high school, out with the hottest note to leave on. Jules leaned her forehead against mine. You just had to make me love you, didn't you? You crash-landed in my story. What else was I supposed to do? In the dark, I saw the shine of her eyes. I thought she might have been crying, but she never would have admitted it. Don't forget me. Jules, you're pretty unforgettable. Well, she says, forever is a damn long time. There was so much I wanted to say to her. There was so much more about her that I wanted to know. But then, from the other room, we heard Delilah's voice. Where's the birthday boy? And just like that, I ran out of time. I tossed and turned for so long that night, I'm pretty sure that I never fell asleep. But that can't be true, because I wake up to find Queen Marine sitting on the edge of my bed. I bolt upright, panicked. But then my vision focuses, and I realize that it's my mother. Her red hair twisted in a tight bun beneath a jeweled crown. She's wearing one of Marine's gowns. Tears stream down her face. Mom, are you all right? I ask. I'm all right, she sobs. I'm better than all right. Her eyes meet mine. Edgar, my mother marvels, my headache is gone. Over to Delilah's point of view. This must be what it feels like to be a human. Every sense is firing at once. Even with my eyes closed, I can see each color in the rainbow. I feel the change in heat in my body as Oliver's arms close around me. I run my fingertips along the velvet of his tunic, marking every stitch. I am soaring through the universe, rootless, groundless, spinning. I'm glowing like I've swallowed a star. And when I finally fall back to Earth, it's a safe landing because I know he'll catch me. So, Oliver whispers, brushing my hair back, I heard it's going to rain tomorrow. I expected a profession of love, or at least a hello, not a weather report. What? He grins. I just want the first words that I say to you here to be totally ordinary. Something I might say to you if I were going to see you tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. Suddenly, I'm smiling. It's what I told him when we said goodbye, but with one critical change. I am going to see him tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. Joy bubbles inside me. It feels like champagne in my veins. Perhaps, I reply, parroting what Oliver once said to me. It will be sunny on Wednesday, and I kiss him again. Gradually, I become aware of the rest of the world, the sound of conversation picking up, the clatter of plates and forks as cake is passed around, and the smell of burned wax from the birthday candles. Oliver won't let go of me. He glances from my tiara to the hem of my gown and smiles broadly. Brilliant dress. I thought you might like it. Suddenly, Jules grabs my shoulder. If you lovebirds could spare a minute, there's a queen that we have to hide. Breaking away, I glance at my mother to make sure that she's occupied, and I see her serving cake. I grab Oliver's hand and I drag him behind me as I follow Jules to the bathroom. She knocks softly and the door opens. Queen Marine has turned on the faucet in the sink and is flushing the toilet. Have you seen this, Oliver? She asked, delighted. Where does the water come from? It worked, I breathe. They're both gone. Jules looks away. Yeah. We must get you dressed, Oliver says. Remember? Queen Marine nods. She, too, has been informed of the plan. She will dress in the spare set of scrubs that Jules brought for her, and then Jules will drive her home. My dear, she says to me, would you mind unlacing my stays? I take the scrubs from Jules and disappear into the bathroom with Queen Marine. She turns around and I pull at the bows on her gown, loosening it. She steps out of the dress and I help her pull the scrub top on. Now that Oliver's not here, she whispers, hiking up the baggy pants and tying them at her waist, might I ask you something? Of course, I say. Seraphima told me of this magical place that you took her. Might we go to this mall? I laugh, twisting her braids into a surgical cap so that the color, darker than Jessamine's, is hidden. I make a mental note to buy her some hair dye. Absolutely, I promise. We have all the time in the world. When we step outside, after a few flicks of the light switch so that Marine can experience the miracle of electricity, I find Jules sitting on the floor, her back against the wall, and Oliver missing. I tamp down the immediate panic that swells in me. I have to be able to let him out of my sight without freaking out every single time and assuming he's been sucked into the story again. Jules looks up at me. Relax, I sent him downstairs to say goodbye to the people who are leaving. It's weird if the birthday boy isn't even at his own party. Then she turns to Maureen, surveying her critically. I think you'll pass, but we'd better get out of here quickly so we're not tempting fate. I turn to Maureen. Can you give us a minute? Rummaging through the folds of my princess gown, I pull out my phone and thrust it towards her. Here, I say, knock yourself out. I leave Maureen pushing buttons and gasping in surprise as music begins to pour out of the tiny speakers. Taking Jules's arm, I drag her towards my room and close the door behind us. You shouldn't have done that, Jules jokes. She'll probably hack your Facebook. I sit down on the bed. You can talk to me, you know. Jules, in classic Jules mode, snorts. Thanks, Dr. Phil. You can be snarky all you want, I tell her. I know how crappy you feel right now. I have been there twice. Jules jerks her chin up. I'm fine. You just worry about Prince Charming. You don't have to worry about me. I know I don't have to worry about you, but I do. And I know that you can talk to me, but you'd rather talk to someone else. Reaching past her, I take the fairy tale from the nightstand and place it in her hands. I believe this is yours now. I stand up. I'm going to take Maureen downstairs and have her say goodbye to my mom, preferably without ever speaking in her British accent. How about I meet you at the car? Jules looks at me and then traces her fingers over the lettering on the book's cover. Then unexpectedly, she throws her arms around me in a tight hug. Thank you, she whispers. As I walk out of the room, she is just cracking open the story. I find Oliver standing guard at the front door, thanking people as they leave. Raj fist bumps him. Great party, bro, Raj says, and Oliver grins. Glad you liked it. Allie and Chris are the last to go. See you Monday, dude, Chris says, putting his hand on the small of her back. Oliver looks up at me, shocked. I'll fill you in later, I murmur. When it's finally quiet, my mother walks out of the kitchen holding a dish towel. That went well, she says brightly. I'm thinking we should have Thanksgiving during a full-on tornado. I laugh. Thanks for your help, Mom. I'd better be getting my mother back home, Oliver says. Thank you so much for letting us use your house, Mrs. McPhee. Anytime. My mother gives Oliver a hug first, then Queen Maureen. I hope you feel better soon. Thank you, Maureen replies, sounding only faintly British. Just then, Jules comes running down the stairs, her cheeks pink. Sorry, she calls. I'm here. Her car keys jingle in her hand. Ready to go, you two? She escorts Maureen out the door. Oliver lingers behind, his hand on my waist. See you tomorrow, he says. Just hearing that word makes me smile. He leans down and brushes his lips over mine, the way you would say goodbye to someone that you know you're going to have many more goodbyes with. When the door closes, I turned around to find my mother shaking out a giant black trash bag. No, Mom, I'll take care of it. You did so much already. Just go to bed and let me clean up. I'm not gonna say no to that, my mother yawns. You think Edgar liked his party? I'm pretty sure that this was his best birthday ever. Her footsteps fade as she climbs the stairs, and I begin to sweep the debris of the party into the trash bag. I dump paper plates and cups and gather crumbs and frosting off the table with a sponge. Well, Delilah, I said out loud. Pretty proud of myself for pulling this off. What can't you do? I was thinking the same thing. I nearly jump out of my skin at the sound of a voice behind me. Oliver stands in the doorway watching me clean up. You scared me to death, I say, but I'm smiling. I can't not smile. Why did you come back? He walks towards me. I told Jules to take Maureen home alone. It occurred to me that I had forgotten something. He plucks the trash bag out of my hand and sets it aside. What? I ask. You never gave me my present. Oliver's hands settle on my hips. So, what did you get me? I wrap my arms around his neck and slowly lean towards him. Forever, I whisper. Oliver dips his head just a breath away from me. Well, look at that, he says, dropping a kiss onto my lips. It fits perfectly. There's a message from the author. It says, there's a difference between a house and a home. Why don't you walk into your neighbor's apartment or your best friend's mudroom and think it's where you live? Obviously, the surroundings are different. There will be odd bits of furniture and walls that are the wrong color and pets that don't belong to you. But even if every house looked identical, If all of the furnishings were the same, it still wouldn't feel like yours. That's because home isn't where you are, it's who you are with. All right, we're going over to Oliver's perspective, and it says 2 months later. Every day I wake up to the smell of vanilla. Maureen is up before dawn frosting the cupcakes that have become the most sought-after sweets in New England. Her home-based business, the Queen of Tarts, has been featured in newspapers, in magazines, and even on television. Once she figured out the concept of basic economics, namely the fact that one could sell cupcakes for a profit rather than just giving them away for free, and once she realized that the refrigerator would not restock itself every night, her career as a master pastry chef really took flight. People who taste her pies and cakes beg to know the secret ingredient, and she always answers, a little dash of magic. I take a quick shower, towel my hair, and throw on a pair of jeans and a sweater. Then, proudly, I grab my car keys from my desk. After several weeks of Delilah's driving boot camp, she has deemed me worthy of Edgar's driving license. Given that neither Maureen nor I knew how to drive when we first arrived, this was quite a necessity. Jessamine's van is now officially my valiant steed. From what Jules tells us, Jessamine's career is blossoming too. She's writing again, for the first time since she penned Between the Lines, and at a rapid rate. The kingdom has been captivated by her books, which have a special sort of twist. She somehow is able to create a story that is exactly what the reader needs at the moment that he or she is reading. What one person takes away from a book might be very different from what the next person takes away, almost as if the story is altered depending on who's reading, where, and when. But then, maybe all books are like that, a little different each time they are opened. The real question is, who's doing the changing, the story or the reader? The best news of all is that Jessamine is healthy once again. She is being courted by Captain Crab, who took her on a moonlight sail and learned how to use a knife and fork while eating, just for her. And Edgar, unbelievably, he's gotten to do some space travel after all, inside the book. It might not be the plot, but it makes a great hobby. His rocket ship is Pyro, and he navigates galaxies from the dragon's back. Even more unbelievably, he's not the only budding astronaut. Seraphima, who formerly couldn't hold a single thought in her pretty little head, now talks non-stop about black holes and pulsars and quasars. When he's not flying missions, though, I hear Edgar spends a lot of time on page 43 talking to Jules. I glance at the clock and hurry downstairs. I want to get to Delilah's house as early as possible. I have something I can't wait to show her. Maureen glances up over a tiered cake. The fondant is already setting. She's piped pink petals along the edge, decorated with silver sugar pearls. Right now, she's inscribing a message across the top. "Good morning, dear," she says. "How did you sleep?" "Quite well, thanks," I answer, automatically reaching a finger into the bowl of frosting for a taste. She swats me with a spatula. "I need that," she scolds with her piping bag. She loops the word happy across the cake. I watch her work for a few moments until she notices me staring. "What?" she asks. "Are you," I ask, "happy?" She smiles. I don't think I really knew what happy was until I came here. I didn't know how much bigger the world could be, how much more there was to offer. I exhale a breath I didn't even realize I was holding. It's good to know that for once we all seem to be satisfied with where we are. "If you wait 2 minutes," Maureen says, "you can have a fresh muffin before you go." I can't. I give her a peck on the cheek and head out of the kitchen. "Don't work too hard." "It's only work if you don't like it," she calls back. In the van, I turn on the radio and drive the 10 minutes to Delilah's house. When I get there, her mother is just coming outside, holding a travel mug of coffee, on her way to work. "You're here early," Mrs. McPhee says. "Delilah's still asleep." "That's all right. I just had some good news that I wanted to share." "Be my guest. I'm sure she'll be happier waking up to see you instead of me." She waves as she ducks into her car and pulls out of the driveway. By now, Delilah's house is as comfortable to me as my own. I climb the stairs and gently creak open her bedroom door. She's lying on her covers at her feet, arms splayed, her hair knotted across the pillow. She's wearing a giant t-shirt that reads, "Bubba's Barbecue. You don't need no teeth to eat our beef," and a lone striped sock. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite so beautiful. I kneel beside the bed, lean down, and kiss her until she wakes up. "Good morning, princess," I say. She answers, eyelids at half-mast. "How?" she mutters. "How what?" "How do you look like that this early in the morning?" "It's a gift," I laugh, and I sit down beside her on the bed. "I have something to show you. I couldn't wait." She rises to her elbows, yawning. "Well, this better be good." I take the letter I printed off the computer last night and place it in her hands. She unfolds it and her eyes skim to the first line. "Congratulations. You've been accepted to the Dartmouth College class of 2019. Delilah's eyes widen and she throws her arms around me. "Oliver, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you." "The best part is I'm only 2 towns away from you." She grins. "I can't believe I'm dating a college guy." Then, just as suddenly, her face falls. "I can't believe you're going to be around college girls." I sigh. "Delilah." "Well, don't tell me I'm being stupid. You don't know what it's going to be like until you get there. You might meet the girl of your dreams the minute that you step on campus." "I already met the girl of my dreams," I point out. "Might I remind you, I didn't fall in love with you because you were pretty or smart or popular." "Aw, thanks," Delilah smirks. "I fell in love with you because you had your nose stuck in a book. If you hadn't been, well, you, we would have never met," I say. "You have a lot more to worry about than some random girl I don't even know yet. You and I, we're going to argue and make up, and go to prom and suffer through exams, and give each other the flu and exchange Valentines, and every single day I'm going to make you remember why we fell in love." Delilah looks down. "But you know, in this world, it's not always a perfect happily ever after." I lift her chin so that our eyes meet. "I would give up 1,000 happily ever afters for right here, right now with you." She kisses me, pulling me back down with her so that we're curled together on top of her covers. Then, suddenly, she sits up. "I just remembered, I have a congratulations present for you." "But you couldn't have known that I'd be accepted." "I'm an optimist," Delilah says, smiling. She reaches into the drawer of her nightstand. It's not wrapped, but still. She hands me a leather-bound book. I open it, but the first page is empty. So is the one after that, and the next. In fact, there's nothing at all written on the pages. Confused, I look at her. "It's called a diary," Delilah explains. "It's for you to fill out. I thought it was about time that you wrote your own story." I take her into my arms and think, this is exactly where I'll start. So then there is another message from the author. "Everyone has a story. You might think it's not worth telling, but then again, it's a story no one has ever heard. What you do, what you say, how you carry the plot, just might leave a mark on someone. Because that's what stories do. They help you escape, and they give you the chance to do things that you never imagined you would or could. They let you feel heartbreak that you've never had and experienced adventures from the safety of your own room. They are dreams for those who are still awake. They can be as comfortable as an old pair of slippers and as unnerving as the blade of a knife. They possess the power to change you, to inspire you, to open your mind. Stories are all around us, caught in the throats of the strangers you walk past and scrawled on the pages of locked diaries. They're in love letters that were never sent and between the lines of every conversation ever spoken. Just because your story is not written down doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Perhaps someone's reading your story right now. In fact, imagining your eyes skimming over this page, your hands clutching the binding as you hurry to get to the last line, you'd best get going. Your reader is eagerly awaiting the next chapter. Okay. That is the end of the book. So I'm going to go through some stuff that's in the book. This was the map of inside the book where they were living. Let's see. There's a copyright page. Also in the front it says to Kyle and Jake. Mom says I'm her favorite. You're okay. Love, Sammy. And this one here says to Kyle and Jake. Sammy's lying. You're all my favorites. Love, Mom. Literally says that. see. We've got the copyright page. I'll go ahead and I'll show it because it's right there. Copyright page. Also by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer is Between the Lines. Novels by Jodi Picoult is Leaving Time, The Storyteller, Lone Wolf, Sing You Home, House Rules, Handle with Care, Change of Heart, 19 Minutes, The 10th Circle, Vanishing Acts, Second Glance, Perfect Match, Salem Falls, Plain Truth, Keeping Faith, The Pact, Mercy, Picture Perfect, Harvesting the Heart, Songs of the Humpback Whale, and My Sister's Keeper. And for the stage, Over the Moon, an original musical for teens. The illustrations were done by Yvonne Gilbert and Scott M. Fisher. That. And that. Okay. Let's see. Front of the page, front of the thing says, number 1 New York Times bestselling authors, Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. Off the page, the companion to Between the Lines. That was the front cover. Inside the front cover, it says, meant for each other. Meet Oliver, a prince literally taken from the pages of a fairy tale and transported into the real world. Meet Delilah, the girl who wished Oliver into being. It's a miracle that seems perfect at first, but there are complications. To exist in Delilah's world, Oliver must take the place of a regular boy. Enter Edgar, who agrees to play Oliver's role in the pages of Delilah's favorite book. But just when it seems that the plan will work, everything gets turned upside down. In this multi-layered universe, the line between what's on the page and what's possible is blurred. Is there a way for everyone to live happily ever after? Off the Page is a tender and appealing romantic novel filled with humor, adventure, and magical relationships. This companion to the author's bestseller Between the Lines is its own fairy tale, sure to please anyone who has ever fallen in love with a character in a book or simply with the joy of reading. Back of the book says, when Oliver sees me, a huge smile breaks across his face. He walks towards me, wraps his arms around me, and swings me in a circle, like I weigh nothing at all. He sets me down, then gently holds my face in his hands, looking at me as if he has found treasure. Hello, Delilah, he says, and he kisses me. I can feel everyone's eyes on me, their mouths gaping. I'm not gonna lie, I could get used to this. On the back here, we've got a picture of the authors and a little thingy about them, so I'll read that. I want to make sure I get everything from this book before I finish this stream. Jodi Picoult is the author of 23 novels, including the #1 New York Times bestsellers Leaving Time, The Storyteller, Lone Wolf, Sing You Home, House Rules, Handle with Care, Change of Heart, 19 Minutes, and My Sister's Keeper. She also co-wrote the #1 New York Times bestseller Between the Lines, the companion to Off the Page, with her daughter, Samantha Van Leer. Jodi lives in New Hampshire with her husband and 3 children. Visit her online at jodipicoult.com. Samantha Van Leer is a sophomore at Vassar College, majoring in psychology with a minor in human development. She co-wrote the #1 New York Times bestseller Between the Lines, the companion to Off the Page, with her mother, Jodi Picoult. Jodi and Samantha have 4 dogs, Alvin, Harvey, Dudley, and Oliver, for whom the prince in this story is named. There's also acknowledgments here at the end, so I'll go ahead and I'll read that. Acknowledgments. We'd like to thank Peter Antelis, Associate Professor of English at Vassar College, for his insight and encouragement while writing this novel. We are also indebted to Abigail Baird, Associate Professor of Psychology at Vassar College, for inspiring various characters and for researching brain tumors for us. Thanks to Ryan Eckholt for coining the term triple tearing, and to Kevin Ferreira, who let us borrow his Instagram joke. Thanks to Kathy Reeks and Lisa Geneva
fantastic authors in their own right, whose expertise helped us fill in the factual gaps in our story. To Will Henderson, we appreciate your coming up with this title long before we even began to think about a sequel. Thanks to Barbara, Marcus, Beverly Horowitz, Dominique Simina, John Adamo, Kim Lauber, Stephanie O'Kane, and the entire Delacourt Press family at Random House Children's Books, who prove that fairy tales do come true. Finally, thanks to Tim/Dad for making us laugh and occasionally scaring us to death by creeping up the office stairs, and to Dudley, Alvin, Oliver, and Harvey, who provided much-needed moral support and puppy breaks. All right. So once again, that is Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. They are mother and daughter. Very pretty ladies. And that was Off the Page by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. I actually finished the book. All right, so that's going to be the end of this stream for today. I don't have another book at the moment. I have a book that I really, really want to get. Walmart said they had it. They didn't actually have it. So I'm going to have to, I don't know, try to find it elsewhere. I mean, it's on Amazon, so I could probably get it delivered. I just don't have a physical address at the moment. But yeah, once I get that book, then I'll do more reading streams. But until then, all I have right now is phone games. So that's what I'm going to be streaming possibly later tonight. All right, and that's it for today's Off the Page reading stream. I will see you guys later when I stream, The Elder Scrolls Castles. All right, bye everybody.